Hi, I'm here. Wow, it's 101. I'm so sorry.
I think it's always like that when you get started each time.
Yeah.
How
How
are
you doing?
you?
Oh gosh, I'm doing well. So happy to be doing this with you.
We are so happy to have you. Doing well here. So busy though. I feel like I'm speaking to the busiest guy in New York, so can't really talk. Um, so welcome, Jose, and hi to everyone listening. We're so excited for this one. We've been hearing from lots of people that you guys are excited as well. So great to see everyone joining. So I just wanted
Yeah.
to start by saying that in case you're new to us, GoStork is the first fertility marketplace where intended parents find, compare, and connect with top fertility providers. And as part of our mission to really bring transparency to the fertility industry and help simplify the first steps in the family building journey, we're always trying to bring really helpful content to intended parents and patients. So from industry experts to those who have walked the path that you're about to embark on or just considering, we're here to educate and support along the way. And so, with that said, Jose, again, we're so honored to have you. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
I'm just so glad to be here and getting to know you guys on the back end a little bit more. Really wonderful.
Thank you. And so, for everyone, as a brief introduction, though probably none is needed, Jose is at NYC Gay Dad on Instagram and TikTok. His videos with his children are viral and endearing and hilarious and all the things. He's a proud father to three children, beautiful children: Avery, who is 7, Lila and London, who are 6, so just 15 months apart, I believe. So now raising three children in New York while also a wedding planner and documenting so much of it on social media to help cheer the rest of us up along the way. I could go on and on, but people don't want to just hear from me. We especially wanted to have you here to walk us through your journey to fatherhood through surrogacy and egg donation, a path that many listening can really learn from, what your experience was like, what you learned along the way, what you wish you knew before you got started. So, um,
And what a journey we're gonna get
yeah,
into.
it is a journey. And so people have been submitting questions, so thank you. And if you're just joining and want to submit a question, we can also work on the fly. Just use the little question icon on the bottom of the screen, and I will try to add it to the list. I'll do my best to fit everything in. Great. Did I get everything?
You got everything.
Awesome. So, shall we? I would love to just dive in and start at the beginning. So, how did you and Tim come to the big decision to do surrogacy in the first place?
Well, I think it's interesting. So we thought about adoption, which obviously was a choice. We saw the pros and cons of both, between adoption, it was cheaper financially, and also the idea of having, being able to rescue a child was really appealing. But at the core of it, for us personally, it was less important for Tim. But with Tim, he had his brothers and sisters, and he had his parents around. And for me, I didn't grow up with brothers and sisters. I grew up as an only child, and I had lost my parents, but both of my parents by the time I was 23. And so I really wanted to have, that biological connection. Because I think, when I came out as a gay man, I mean, I felt like, well, the buck stops here. Being the only child, there's no lineage to be passed on. And by the way, I see how kind of silly that might be now with how I feel, but at the time, it was really important. And so I wanted to pass on the Rolón genes, whatever that might be, for better or for worse. And
Hmm.
so we realized that financially we were able to do it. Tim did really well for work, and so we just decided to go for it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, for better, for worse. I'm sure all for better.
Yes.
And so you decided, one of your first decisions was to work with a surrogacy agency. So why was that such an important decision to you, and how did they help you along the journey?
Well, look, this was back in 2012. And so, they had same-sex marriage still wasn't legal across all states. So I think for us, it was just a smart decision to bring on an agency that at the time we had hoped would bring all the people all the things that we needed together. I think, you know, as smart as Tim was, I'm not even going to give myself credit there. We definitely we needed lawyers. We needed people to look at the fine print, and we didn't want to make any mistakes by doing it on our own. I mean, there was already so
Hmm.
much risk as being two gay men in the world trying to build a family that we didn't want to take any chances.
Hmm. It's so good that they were able to support you throughout that process.
Yeah.
And what did your selection process look like as far as looking for an agency and vetting them? What were some of the criteria you were looking for? How did you choose the one?
Yeah, so I think we really wanted to we wanted to pick an agency that obviously was reputable. There were maybe two at the time. There was two, three that seemed like a possibility. I could only think of two that we actually interviewed or looked for. And Circle Surrogacy out in Boston. I'm from Massachusetts, so there was already that connection, which made me feel
Hmm.
really good. But with Circle Surrogacy, at the time it felt like an all-in-one one-stop shop type of thing. You had your lawyer in there, you had a case worker, I forgot what they call them now, but a case worker and people to really help you in the selection process. Really, I felt like there was good hand holding, as well as Circle did never came across to me as an agency that was just trying to collect your money. And everything felt really, you know, it felt genuine. So yeah, for us, it ended up being Circle Surrogacy because it felt like there was more hand holding there, and I liked the reviews behind them.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, looking for intended parent reviews is so helpful, and we love Circle. They're on GoStork. So
Yeah.
I think it's so helpful to have a full service agency to get you through all those steps in the process. And so moving on to other fertility providers that you needed for your journey, you also needed an egg donor, right? So can you walk us through what that research process looked like? Was it overwhelming at first? Like, how did you get started looking for your egg donor?
Yeah, getting an egg donor. You know what it is? I was looking through my glasses, but I'm gonna take my glasses off because I feel like you can't see me. I'm here.
We
Because
can
I'm
see
like,
you.
I want to see the comments.
I saw some yay Bostons.
Yeah, there's like a lot of good love happening
Yeah.
here. Um, I so with an egg donor, right? So for us, like I believe, and don't quote me, and if Circle Surrogacy is listening, forgive me if I got this wrong, but I they didn't at the time seem to have their own database of egg donors, and so or if they did, it felt very limiting, and so we started looking at other egg donor websites, and we really weren't crazy about a lot of them. You know, it felt like here they have a lot, but the quality that this company had was not as great. Or here, you know, you had a few good quality ones, but perhaps the service that they were providing was not didn't make us feel safe enough to move forward with them in terms of like how the egg donors are being vetted, in terms of even their background. Like, we don't just want it to stop with their health, but what about their parents' health? Even the grandparents. Like, let's go as far up as we possibly can.
Hmm.
And so we really just got overwhelmed with the process. And so what we ended up doing was, at the time, I hired what was called the egg donor concierge, and her purpose was to gather, you know, having a 1 hour sit down with Tim and I, uh, getting our criteria, getting what our likes, what we were looking for, what we were not looking for, and then she just went out to the world and came back and grabbed different different egg donors from the different agencies, and she came back with 25 for us to choose from. Um, and that really just made it less overwhelming because we were already in that state of overwhelm after reviewing all of those egg donor websites. Um, and that was really fantastic, actually, because, you know, she came to us with 25. Tim and I made the decision um, that we were going to go into two separate rooms, And then we were going to come back with our 10 favorites. So we had them printed out. We had 25 sheets printed out,
Mm-hmm.
pictures, all of that. All right, Tim, you're going to go in this room and come back with 10. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to pick my 10 and we're going to come back and see where we're at. No joke, I swear on everything, we came back with the same top 10. So there were the same 15 we did not include were somewhere else. We came back in the top 10. And we did not have, we didn't have them in order. A couple of them were in order. But our egg donor that we chose was my number 4 and his number 1.
Mm-hmm. Same top 4
and
or close
yeah,
to that. Yeah.
yeah. And so, so yeah, in the top 4. And ultimately, we thought that the number 1 and my number 4 was the best fit. And honestly, the only reason she was my top 4 at the time was that she was my complexion, and I wanted that if it ended up being that Tim ended up being the person but that was biologically connected to the baby, I wanted to have some resemblance of, or if I was the resemblance that this baby can still look like our child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was afraid that if she was the same complexion as me and I was the one that the baby was connected with, then like Tim could not see himself through this baby. So that was sort of part of, like, my first 3 had lighter skin to sort of accommodate that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, one of the problems we're trying to help solve with the industry is that there's so many different egg donor agencies and databases all over the place with small selections. So we're bringing everything together in one place. If you don't want to pay a lot for an egg donor, obviously that was before when you started your process.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that I didn't mention, which was, Circle Surrogacy isn't cheap. They're worth it, right? Because they have a good reputation. They were worth
Mm-hmm.
what we paid them. Yeah. Um, then we had the egg donors. Then we signed up for we put all these fees to all these egg donor websites. And then when we found the egg donor concierge, that was an additional, I don't even remember what it was. It could have been like $10,000 or something. It was,
Mm-hmm.
it was a lot.
For those of you out there who are looking for an egg donor, our database is entirely free. So it's 10,000 egg donors, the largest free online database. But let's move back to your story. So you talked about also looking for, complexion that resembled you. And we hear from a lot of intended parents that they're really looking for those subtleties of like features and things that will feel familiar to them and look like them. So it's just really interesting that you say that. And so you and Tim also are each biologically connected to the kids, right? Him to Avery and you to Lila in London.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through what that decision and process looked like?
Yeah, look, so there's a lot of little back end things that people don't realize. So initially, we were just going to use my sperm. Mostly because the biological part for me was really important, less important for him. And he actually was nervous about his own genes and, based on his, maybe the personalities of people in his family. He was like, I don't want little Meryl's running around. I want to see little Joselitos running around, he would always say. And so, but something really interesting happened, which was somewhere in the middle of the process, before we got to the nitty gritty, he's like, I think I want to try. I think I want in. and I was like, wait a minute, you're cutting off my chances here. But of course, I found out, because I find certainly his genes to be much more wonderful than my genes were, and he was such a beautiful human being. So for me, it was like, yeah, all right, let's do it. And so the first time we made the decision to put one of each. So they're called blastocytes, right? And so we put in one. So we got the eggs. We extracted. I remember this number because it's a number that shows up in my whole life, which is the number 47. it shows up everywhere in my life. So
Percent.
no joke, 47 eggs was what was extracted. We're like, oh my God, 47. That's like crazy. And so we took about 20 and 20, froze, froze, uh, froze 20 of them with Tim's and 20 with mine. And then on the day of the procedure, we decided to put one of his and one of mine, and see what would take. And for me, it was very clear that that baby was going to be my biological baby popping out because, I knew in my mind I was going to like moonwalk all over that other little blastocyte embryo and come out winning. Uh, but that is not what happened. What came out was this blonde head
Hmm.
white boy.
But he's amazing, obviously. Um, and before we move on from all these decisions about what fertility providers to work with and such, you also had to get an IVF clinic as part of this process. Did you realize that before you started your surrogacy journey that you would have to do that? And what did your process look like as far as choosing one?
Yeah, look, I knew that we had to do that. We knew that we had to do that, but it was still more work than we thought it would be. And we kind of did the same process as we did with the agency. We knew that there were two that we wanted to go for. And then ultimately, we chose California Fertility Clinic, um, uh, because we felt like we had a good energy and a good vibe with the doctor at the time.
Important.
So yeah, that was really important to us. And obviously, he had provided for a lot of gay parents, which that was also really important for us. And him being in California, which is a liberal state, that was plus.
Right. Um, and this is quite a process. Obviously, you two were a team. As you move on to the next steps, such as signing contracts with providers, it can start to feel like a lot of work. So how did you work together on that? Did you each have roles, different strengths that parts of the process that you led or supported on?
Wait, sorry, for which part of the process are we talking about?
Just like signing contracts and,
Yeah.
and going through all the logistics.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't my thing. And so that was definitely Tim's thing, Tim's strength, coming from the finance world and being so used to reading the fine print. He was, far more versed in the language that was in there. So he was really good about, the paperwork and the logistics and all of that. And then, we had a lawyer within Circle Surrogacy that obviously helped with some of that stuff too. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Um, and once you moved on from there after, deciding to work with the agency, moved on to the process of matching with your gestational carrier.
yeah,
What were you looking for in a carrier? And what was that matching process of like getting to meet and match with her and getting to know her?
yeah. So most people don't realize that our kids are not the same. Uh, the egg donor, we have a different egg donor and a different surrogate,
Which
right?
is the
And
most common,
so
of course.
yeah,
Mhm.
yes, but a lot of people think that
Right.
our surrogate is the biological child, is biologically connected to our children. So once we had our egg donor for us, then you know, you had to find a surrogate that was willing to carry for two for LGBTQ family. Um, Also, we did have one. I can share this. We did have one. I can't remember her name now. But what happened, and this is why we appreciated Circle Surrogacy, is that uh, they obviously have to have a medical exam, psychological exam. Her psychological exam was great. Her medical was, off the charts. They were from Kansas. Uh, and the reason why I share that, well, I'll tell you that in a second. But the reason that fell through very last minute for us is because her husband, your husband partner has to get tested as well, and he came down with lupus. So even though she didn't have it, he had lupus. That also means it takes a toll on her as
Right.
being his so so right away it disqualified her to be our surrogate. So that was, I would say, throughout the whole process for us, that was a letdown. That was sort of like the first like defeating moment,
Mhm.
and I would say the last defeating moment. And then we ended up, and then I say the Kansas part because in retrospect, I think we were really grateful because what it was a 5 hour ride and a 5 hour drive to where she was located. So it's like, I don't think we'll ever make it to the birth if, it's sort of like if the babies come early, we'll just,
Mhm.
where our surrogate
Gonna get there.
Natasha, who we chose was from at the time lived in Valdosta, Georgia. So it was like a 2 hour plane ride to Jacksonville and then another hour and a half or so to Valdosta. So the back and forth was really easy.
Mhm. And
And in the process of choosing her, we really liked how easygoing she was. We
mhm.
liked how she enjoyed being pregnant. She had already had two of her own children, which, by the way, after our three, she had two more. So
Seven total, right?
she had like seven kids, and by the
Mhm.
time she turned 27, it's so insane.
I can't
Uh,
imagine.
she is
Mhm.
a beast in the best sense. She's just popping them out, and she loved being pregnant. So like, yeah, her enthusiasm for being pregnant was like, was probably what sold us on. And we loved her. We loved her husband. Her husband was in the military, Kyle, super sweet, and he was really great too. He's like, I can't wait to be on the military base and tell people that that ain't my baby, when she's walking around pregnant. He has a really good sense of humor. We're still very much connected, and he was awesome. And the kids were great too.
That's amazing. And it's an important point you made. Any good full service agency will do all the screening process and will make sure that, um, a carrier is set up to succeed and has all the support that they need. And if someone has to be eliminated for some reason, they'll make sure that that happens before you get started. So in the
Exactly.
end, it worked out the best for you.
Yeah.
And so, from there, how did you kind of build up a strong relationship and rapport with her? Did you attend appointments, join on FaceTime? Like, how did you go about, her milestones?
Yeah, I think we ended up all the milestone appointments from the heartbeat. Oh, I have a video
Oh,
of this. I could get emotional right here on the live because to hear Avery's heartbeat for the first time, it's something I will never forget because you know that you're gonna hear a heartbeat, but you're sort
hmm.
of thinking in the terms of like how maybe I'm doing right now, maybe through a headphone or like a piece, or it's gonna sound really faint. Um, yeah, I'm getting so emotional right now because it's like it was
I.
when we first heard the heartbeat, it was a surround sound. I mean, it
Hmm.
filled up the room and it was loud in like the most beautiful way. This like I don't know, the most beautiful drum sound that you can hear. And uh yeah, my gosh. I mean, just thinking now about how much I love my kids and I'm thinking about Avery and I'm like, that was my first connection with him was hearing his heartbeat. There's just something magical about that. And so yeah, so we made to all the milestone appointments from the heartbeat to the sex, finding out if he was going to be a boy or a girl. And then obviously, and we made it down for his birth.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Any parent can't help but tear up when you think about that. I mean, that first heartbeat is incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm laughing right now because something that a lot of people don't realize too is he was almost a Walmart baby because
I didn't know that.
he was almost a Walmart baby because when when the way we discover actually no the way we discovered what that we were having him, we were already down there for an appointment, right? We were
Hmm.
after that appointment, we were going to go to Savannah, Georgia, and then come back to New York before he was supposed to get be before Natasha was going to give birth to him. So we went to an appointment because we wanted to measure how big how many centimeters or the cervix
Hmm.
was or
Right.
the diameter.
Dilated? Yeah.
Dilated, thank you. And that happened, and we're there with her, and her water broke. And she's like, the doctor was like, "You're gonna have a baby today." And we're like, It was like 5 weeks early, right? We're like, what? And Natasha, being the rock star she is, she's like, we need to go to Walmart. I was like, I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean
Oh my
Walmart?
God.
We're not going to Walmart. You're having a baby. She's like, oh no, we're going to Walmart. We're gonna go and we need to get the essentials that we need. I'm like, but you know,
You
we
didn't
don't
have
want to,
your bag. Yeah.
we don't want to piss anybody off here. We don't want to piss off the surrogates. So we're like, okay, we're gonna go to Walmart. I have to tell you, I have to demonstrate, right? So like, so like, we're pushing the cart along. She's pushing the
Yeah.
cart along. I'm behind her. I have this recorded somewhere. So like, she's like,
You
all
can
right
send it
now,
and we'll post it later.
yeah. She's like, all right, so make sure you get those diapers. Oh, there's the car seat, and then it's like, oh.
Oh my God.
She's like this. She's like, oh, and then she's like, oof. Okay, so next, now make sure we get those bottles and make sure we get this stuff, and then all this. She's like, oh.
She was working overtime. I mean,
She,
if that happened to me and my husband was like, "Oh, we have to go get our bag now," it would be
no,
done.
and she wasn't leaving Walmart until she got everything she needed. She's like, I know this is scaring you. I know this seems like a lot, but I'm telling you, I've done this before, and I know what I'm. Oh,
Oh my God.
I know
I
what I'm doing.
can't.
And I was like, and Tim and I were in back of her in the car, being like,
What is happening with our life right now?
but we made it to the hospital in time. We had all of our baby seat and all of that because of her. She was
Car
like a
seat.
godsend, and he was born. We helped pull him out, which was amazing. Sometimes the doctors will let you. Sometimes the doctors will let you catch the baby. This doctor she was like, all right, get your hands in there and grab his head. And I'm like, holy smokes. So Tim and I got to actually take Avery out. I'm like, is this something they do down in the South? I have no idea, but let's go for it.
Oh my God, what an incredible story. And this is a good note for first-time parents or intended parents with gestational carriers. Have your bag ready early. I had a surprise at work and my pregnancy almost all fell apart 2 months early, but it was my second and we were ready when we had to go in 8 weeks early and decide what was going to happen. So always something to get ahead on. So
So,
so you're
somebody in the chat said this almost happened to her as well. So funny.
Yeah,
Mm,
she said her daughter was pretty early.
yeah.
Oh my God, what a beautiful birth. Well, maybe you'll send us the Walmart video. That part might be more funny than beautiful. We'll have to see. So obviously you're amazing intended parents. Clearly you had a great relationship with your surrogate. What's your advice to be a really supportive intended parent? You know, could feel a little like you're not in as much control from afar day to day, but kind of what did you do to maintain the communication and to support along the way? Extra bonus points for tips for great gifts to get for your gestational carrier.
Look, I think we were really good about staying in constant communication. You know, we're in the age of text messaging at this point, and so it was just really easy to connect with her day to day, and she was really easy, and she was really good about texting us and keeping us updated. And one of the things we always did for her is every 2 weeks we gave her massage appointments for her body, and so she loves massages. She felt like she never gets enough of them,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe once a year. So we made a point of giving that to her every 2 weeks
That's
to relax
amazing.
her, because you have to remember she's still a mom, right? So
Mm-hmm.
she still has two boys at home, and Kyle was working quite a bit, and so this was our gift to her, and I think that really made a big difference for her.
That's amazing. Pregnancy massages are so helpful. Someone
Yeah.
saying how impressed they are that you caught Avery and that their husband nearly passed out when he was asked to cut the umbilical cord. You rock. That's what it
Well, listen,
says.
I know. I mean, you know, I've heard stories about, you know, how that occurs to the husband when the
Mm-hmm.
baby's being born and they're watching that, because it's a different intimate
It's so
situation that's
different.
happening there, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's for life, right? And I think for us there was that detachment there. So I'm like, I'll go in, like it's fine.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I mean, despite the detachment, it's still quite a journey. The whole
Yeah.
way, every step, there can be surprises and things. So did you have emotional support throughout the process, and or would you recommend for others to make sure that they're set up to have a therapist throughout their journey?
Yeah, I will say, although Tim and I made such a good team, uh, we wish that we would have had the emotional support. I think obviously a big conversation that we're always having now is about your mental well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly I know we're going to talk about it ahead, but I certainly could have used it for the girls. But um, that, yeah, that was something I wish we would have gotten. That's something that I think was lacking in the agency at the time, that I wish we would have had the emotional mental support, and not only for us but for our surrogate too.
Mm-hmm.
And even though for her she was not biologically connected, and she was really great, where she felt like, I just felt like I babysat your kids for 9 months, was her attitude. There's still something to that. Like even after giving birth, what is the emotional support that they need? And then I think that's something that I wish a lot of agencies could provide, not during and post. I think
Right.
that's really important, and that's something we didn't have that I wish we would have had.
Yeah, I mean, it's so good to know and let people know. I think you and I were talking about this last week that I think every single person in New York goes to therapy as is, even if they're not going through this process. So
Exactly.
obviously, mental health is so important. And I guess moving on from there to what you just mentioned, I mean, this one is hard to even put into words. I believe most are aware that you endured a really unexpected tragedy during your second journey. Not only that, but
Yeah.
it was at a crucial time in the pregnancy, just to compound everything. I guess so. How did you work through that? And you had to make an important decision at the time. How did you kind of work through that?
Yeah, so uh, Tim and I flew down. So we decided to get pregnant again. We
Mm-hmm.
knew that this time we were going to use my stuff because Avery was
My
clearly
stuff.
biologically Tim's.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not going to take any chances this time. And so we put in, and we initially intended to only put in one. Um, what ended up happening is that the doctor was like, he's like, all right, I've got them on the day of the, I know we're backtracking a little bit, but on the day of that our surrogate literally had her legs open, we had the procedure ready to go. The doctor was like, all right, I've got them. And I'm like, what do you mean them? We only contracted for one. And he's like, well, I unfroze your stuff this morning and it just wasn't in good condition. And I'm like, you got the wrong guy. My stuff is in prime condition. And he's like, no, it's not. And he's like, if you only put in one, there's only a 15% chance of getting pregnant. And so I was like, oh, okay. So, and then I said, what are the chances that you'll result in getting pregnant with twins if we put in two? And he essentially went nil, which that's a whole
Right.
other thing to discuss. But I was like, so we were like, okay, well, then put in two. We fly down for the 10-week appointment. And on the 10-week appointment, we find out that it's twins. I'm freaking
I,
out.
yeah.
Tim is not freaking out. He's easy peasy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the following week, he went to a doctor's. He went to on a business trip in Pennsylvania to give a presentation, and I was at a networking event. We're 11 weeks pregnant. I was at a Christmas event. This is December 11th, 2013. I hadn't heard from him all day. It was really strange, super rare that that ever happens. I even left him a couple threatening voicemails. And then I got the call that he passed away. And they're like, give us a call, speak to Detective so and so. So I knew something had happened. I had wished when I called back, all I was praying for is that it was a car accident, because I knew it was bad. I was like, please let it be a car accident and nothing more than that. If he is disabled, we'll deal with it, but don't let it be anything more than that.
Yeah.
And so we,
Sorry, I'm not a
yeah,
professional journalist. It's
no, it's okay. And so yeah, got the call that he had passed away the night before in his sleep. He had a heart attack. Um, and they said that they believe he never felt it because they found him with both his hands tucked under his cheek and said that he almost looked like he was smiling. Um, so, yeah, at 11 weeks pregnant, my husband passed away. And, oof, um, and for me, it was very clear that I was going to abort because, who am I to raise three kids on my own? And I knew that I couldn't do it. And I had 1 week to decide because in Georgia at 12 weeks you can't make that decision anymore. And so it was the sixth day, which was the actual last day I had to make the decision, happened to be the same day as Tim's funeral service. Um, and I woke up that morning and from losing both of my parents, I thought my son just lost his father. And what if something were to happen to me? I didn't want to leave him alone in this world. And so I made the decision that morning to follow through the pregnancy, went to the church. It was his service. And I announced while giving his eulogy that we were pregnant. Nobody knew we were pregnant except for a select few. So as you can imagine, you know, I'm getting emotional. Um, the audible gasps and people were just like they just could not believe it. And but I chose that moment to announce that we were pregnant and that I was following through because what better time in that moment of a church full with 400 people. I
Everyone
need
you
your
love who loves the show.
everybody I love, everybody who loved
Yeah.
Tim. This is my moment to reach out for prayers, love, and support, whatever. Like,
Mhm.
I'll take anything. And then Natasha and Kyle, her family all flew up. They were there in the church. She was there in the front row.
Mhm.
And, and that made
The
us
twins
very
were there.
close. The twins were there, and we were very, very close to them. And, that bonded us forever because that was quite the experience for her. And that was a conversation that we needed to have because I
Right.
think when Tim passed, she said, I'll support whatever you decide. But ultimately, in making the decision to follow through the pregnancy, I think she was relieved. I think
Right.
now knowing my surrogate and she leans more conservatively, I think retrospect, she was happy that I made that decision, but she was going to be supportive no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, these decisions are so hard just as it is. You have to talk about things like selective reduction or termination during the contracting process, but you never know what's going to happen. It could be because someone's at risk.
Yeah,
Obviously, this was a completely different situation, but it's just incredible how your relationship grew with her,
yeah.
obviously.
And I'll say that within that week of going from not decide from aborting to
Like
following
fully
through,
knowing each side. Like
it
you knew you were
it
going to, and then you knew you.
well, what happened is in between, I did propose like, well, what if we terminate one? Can we terminate one? And so that there's just one and Avery can have a sibling. And they said we can, but there's a risk that if we try to terminate one, there's a risk with the second one may not be viable or go through the pregnancy. And then from there, I was like, well, what about adoption? Can I adopt them out?
Mhm.
That was another thing that I had to think about. Um, but ultimately, I got to that place that morning where I was like, we're gonna rock and roll. We're gonna do this.
It just
And
has to be so terrifying to think about that. I mean, even with none of those circumstances, people say it feels like going from like 1 to 5 when you go from one child to the next one, but to do that alone with 1 to 3 with twins at the same time, it's
yeah,
and obviously it all turned out the way it was meant to, and it was an amazing decision. But I can't imagine what that week felt like.
yeah, and then I think also when we decided, and then when I flew down to find out their sex, that was a whole other thing.
Not what you
Like,
expected.
no, I was like, okay, now I decided to follow through the pregnancy. Please don't let it be two girls. I I want I I have a right to feel like I have a right to have a preference. And my preference is going to be I want a boy and a girl because I figured I should probably have one girl. But if it's not a boy and a girl, then I'll take three boys. I do not want two girls because I just don't know what being a girl is like. There's a misconception with gay men that we all want girls because we can do pretty things and comb hair and all that other stuff. I was like, I didn't want that. I don't want it. And when we found out that it was two girls, I was right in that room. Tim's sister was with me, and she said, "Well, you're having two little girls," and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I said that. I was like, "All right, that's what I said," and
Wow.
she's like, and the witch is like, "Oh, it'll be all right, honey. It'll be all right," and obviously now I could not imagine any combination, and I'm like obsessed with having my two girls in Avery. So
It's so inspiring to see men become fathers to girls. I just think it's so beautiful, and they just don't really have a concept of how incredible it's going to be. I think you also know our
yeah.
founder, Iran, had his daughter through surrogacy, and through that experience, inspired him to create GoStork. And she's our co-founder. She's turning 3 soon, but it's just such an incredible relationship. And they're so lucky to have you. And a lot of people are saying that here, how lucky they are to have you.
Oh.
So thank you so much for sharing that story, and what, decisions came along with that. Um, and so how did things proceed from there? Like, how would the second and third trimester all go okay? I mean, actually, in both pregnancies, was it kind of proceeded as expected towards the
Yeah,
end?
so London, so we got the call. I got the call in the middle of the night that she also 5 weeks early.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, here we go. And I hopped on a plane and I I got on a plane and I hired a doula this time, and we got a doula, and she was keeping us updated. And she's like, we're in the middle of the plane, and I'm nervous. And she's like, okay, baby A is here, and breathing, and great. Here's baby B. Baby B is here. This is all text messages. She sends me a couple photos. I'm bawling my eyes out. And I was, and I just wanted them to be healthy. And then all of a sudden, I get a text message in midair that baby B isn't breathing. So I was like, she's not breathing. They just transferred her to somewhere else. I'm on a plane. I'm freaking out and I'm shaking. And it's only myself, and the seat next to me is empty. And the steward, stewardess was looking at me like a little bit funny because I was sweating, I was shaking, I was like doing this, like obsessing over my phone because it went quiet. 10, 15 minutes were going by. I wasn't getting any text messages, and I'm like this. The co-pilot came out to see if everything was okay.
They thought you were having like a
I
fear of flying or anxiety attack or something.
look at this face. This face tells people in that time
Mm-hmm.
that I could possibly be a terrorist on a plane and I might be up to no good.
My
Like,
brain didn't go there, but
well, their brain did. They came in, they checked to check on me, make sure because I did not look mentally stable to them. And so I said to
would be.
them, I said to them what the deal was. And then basically they were like, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. And they're like this. They're like this.
Give you a towel.
The doula came back online and said, I'm so sorry, my phone ran out. My phone died. And so I was like,
Okay,
oh
that
my
should be a
God.
prerequisite to charge your phone.
I know. I'm like, if we weren't in this situation, you'd be fired right now. No, she was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But got down there, and for about 2 weeks, London and Lila were separated in the hospital because London got transferred to a hospital where they had her lungs were developed properly. And so, they finally got reunited after almost 2 weeks, and then I was able to bring
Oh,
them home. They ended up being healthy and great. And then we flew home to these little itty bitty babies home. And Tim's other sister was down there with me too, and so
good.
we were able to get them up. And so there was something that happened, throughout the pregnancy after Tim passed away. I was freaking out, really nervous, and then there was something about them arriving that calmed me because I thought, well, we're all in it now,
Hmm.
and what's the sense in freaking out? So, uh, yeah,
It's
and I got a night nurse because I didn't want to, again, mess around. I was still very much grieving, right? I mean,
right.
it was less than a year after Tim passed away, and so I really needed all the help and support that I could get. And so I did it. I think it was like a year and a half. I was still kicking people out of the house, which was really nice.
Yeah, we had some questions about that actually, but I was curious, how much did they weigh? Were they in the NICU? Or
Yeah, yeah, they
yeah,
were. I can't. They were like 4 pounds and something, 4.5 pounds. They were less than 5.
weren't you that little? You were even smaller than that,
I
right?
was three. I was a 3 months premature. So yeah, I was 3 pounds, and my mom would always say, and she was 5'3", so her hands weren't as long as mine. She's like, "You were from here to here, and I did not know what to do with you at 16 years old."
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like being a NICU parent myself. You were talking about the calm. It almost is calm in a weird way. It's terrifying, but the care is so amazing, and NICU nurses are like angels. And it's just sometimes
Oh,
you just sit there and hold your baby, and that's it. You can't go anywhere. You can't take them away from the isolate. You just sit with them, and
I'm
it
still
it is
friends with
weirdly peaceful sometimes. I don't know.
it. It is, and I am still friends with my INCU nurse. We still connect. We're on social media, bouncing back and forth all the time.
They're the best.
Recently lost her husband, so we were sort of reconnecting on that and helping her through that. So yeah, they're people that help bring your baby into this world. They should be your lifers,
Yeah,
including the agencies that you bring on board.
all of
Stork
them.
included. I mean, I'll say that right off the bat that I really wish that you guys were an option for me and Tim from the very beginning because I see what you guys are doing and it would have made everything so much more seamless. And yeah,
That's our goal. Thank you for saying that.
yeah,
We are just trying to make it easier. It is really hard to get the process started. You have so many different providers you need, and there's just so much information out there. It's hard to make sense of all of it. So, what we were just talking about transitioning into being a single father of three, like we said, it takes a village. It sounds like you had all of your support set up. You said for almost a year, right?
yeah,
We have people going through secondary infertility that, after having one, it might take a long time to have another. And we just got this question in about that transition. So, you set up a night nurse. Did you have any other tips for, you have a child you're also chasing after, right? Like a 15
yeah,
month old who's running around, I'm guessing by then. So, how did you
yeah.
make that transition?
I mean, the transition was really just about having as much support as possible, both hired
Yeah.
and not hired. And this is the advice that I'm going to give to every parent. I don't know if we're supposed to do that now or at the end, but I'm just going to give it to you now,
No, go for it.
which is being a single father and being a man. There is some double standards that come with being a man. There's pros and cons. I feel like single mothers get it so far worse than we do.
Hmm.
But I will say that when you're a two-parent household, whether if you get your child naturally through surrogacy, through adoption, whatever it is, when you're a two-parent household, nobody offers you guys help because they assume that you got it because you're two.
Right.
And the reality is you don't got it. It's still a shit show, a literal shit show. And
100%.
so I always tell parents to, and because people would say, you seem so much calm and you have three and I only have one, or my husband this and that. And that is because people never assumed that I got it. Nobody ever assumed that I got it. And being a man was part of that because I don't have motherly instinct is a real thing. I did not have that. And so uh for especially my family, they were like, "Ay bendito Jose, he don't know how to change a diaper. Let's go let's do that for him." And I would play that card. I would say, "You know what? You're right. Where's that strap again?" Like, and
What does
and
that
I
stick to? And what is our
what does
connection?
that stick to? Like, I don't get it. But I would have so much support because there was an assumption that I did not really know what I was doing, even if I did know what I was doing, but I was also just one. And so for all of you parents out there, and parents get nervous because they don't want other people to see that they can't hold their own, because there's, we talk ourselves up leading up to the pregnancy. I got this. This is the kind of mom I want to be. I'm going to show, that I'm not going to be like my sister, this and that. Knock that off. Like,
Mhm.
let people into your shit show. Let people see the crazy in you, because that is going to make you less crazy. That is going to make the shit show less crazy, less messy. So really, if you can't afford, help, make sure you hold people accountable. How many times, I bet parents that are listening right now, someone says to you, hey, if you ever need help, let me know. And you're like, I will, but you never reach out. You don't hold them accountable. Hold everybody
Right.
accountable that says that they're going to help you out. That's going to make such a massive difference. I need you to, like, for parents out there, I need you to roll out there like you're a single parent. Be a single parent and request all the help that you can get. It's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I was in some parents groups and moms groups, and they would set people up to bring meals to each other, and you don't have to ask, you're just set up to do it. Or even like being in the NICU, other people who had preemies knew to show up with gifts and lunch and whatever else. Don't ask, should I bring you lunch? Because I'm not going to say yes. Just
Yeah.
bring it, right? I
But
we
I want to teach parents to say yes.
Yeah,
I want, you
exactly.
got to be more proactive on that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, especially being in this industry, we're working with so many wonderful people out there, women who are like IVF warriors or trying to conceive, going through the process. And I do really think that over the last few years, people are becoming much more honest about the struggles and being more public about it, and not just posting the cute baby costume photo shoots, but also being open to talk about what they're really going through. When I have friends that are scared or going through this, there's a lot of amazing accounts out there too that can help you just feel supported or not feel alone, as far as like people just being honest that it's really hard and you need support. So I like to see
Yeah.
that change and that
Yeah.
honesty.
I see somebody saying, and it helps having the fun
Fun
uncles.
uncles. Who's
Yes, Uncle Ryan and Uncle Dave. They're here every weekend, and they're such a massive and beautiful support.
Hi, Uncle Ryan and Uncle Dave. Is that what you said?
Yeah, yeah. There, because somebody
Hi.
was mentioning who knows them on the back ends. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Having uncles, aunts, whoever wants to come into your world, your chosen family, right? A
Yep.
lot of us also who live in big cities, it's not, most of my support system were actually my chosen family. So have everybody on board.
Yep. All the help you can get, and people want to do it as long as you just let them in.
Yeah.
Um, So fast forward a few years, and you now have these super creative viral TikToks and Instagram presence and videos all the time, tons of followers on both, so much love from around the world.
Yeah.
So just on any given day, how do you even come up with all these funny ideas? I mean, is it in your coffee? Like, what? Where did these come from?
Listen, through the pandemic, I did not have a support system. And so, it was triple duty for me. So I became a parent, I became a teacher, and I was also trying to make my business survive. I'm a wedding planner. And
Right.
so, to have to do that, it just became crazy and stressful. And I really wanted a way, the scripted responses, I wanted to have a way to break up that craziness. But the other part of it, I mean, I don't mind keeping it real here and being honest, is I just wasn't getting laid either. And as a single dad, because, and when my kids were, when your kids get to your point where they're driving you crazy and nuts, that's how I rejuvenate as a dad. I want to go out on a date, or I want to just have some intimate moment with someone. And so the fact that I wasn't going to get that for how many months, I needed to figure out what to do with my creativity. So that's how the TikTok stuff was
Mhm.
born, and they went viral, and yeah, it's been really wonderful. We've been featured on so many videos, so
Mhm.
many talk shows. I can now announce, as of yesterday, I can share with you guys,
Yay.
um, that two things, that I'm going to be on Ellen's Game of Games, on
Wow.
Monday night, 8 o'clock. They flew me out about 6 months ago, very COVID friendly. And so that airs on Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So she was amazing, despite whatever is being said out there. Ellen was fantastic.
It wasn't weird
And
behind the scenes or anything.
not at all. And then the other thing is, on Friday, this past Friday, if this gets reposted. Today is Tuesday. No, today's Wednesday. On Friday, this network called me and asked me if I would co-host a webisode series called Parenting Wins. And they said, we are going to film all of season 2 on Monday, all 10 episodes. Is this something you're willing to do? So this happened on Monday. I'm officially a co-host of a show called Parenting Wins. And it's these 4-minute segments that shows parents to come and new parents how to utilize the new and latest things that are out there. This is the crib that you need. This is the straddle that you need. So all of that. So that's something that's happened that's really amazing. So yeah, things are moving very fast.
We're so excited for you. We actually got questions like about that. And I was, I'm selfishly wanting to know where to look for you next. I figured you would be doing more around families or family building. So I think that's such a perfect fit. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's see, another question that came in. From Megan Ely. How soon are you coming down to Virginia so I can babysit the kids?
Oh my God. As soon as they open up those gates, we're going to be flooding down there, all of us. We're just going to come. That's going to be the first stop.
Amazing. I'm sure she'll appreciate it. She actually also asked me to ask, why are the cats not in TikTok videos more? But
they have been
not as relevant to this conversation.
No, it is. Here's a couple things I will share with you is that they have been in a couple TikTok videos. You just have to do a deeper dive. But the other thing is that our next campaign we are doing is with Tom and Jerry. The Tom and Jerry movie's coming out at the end of this week. And we are doing a TikTok campaign and we're involving our cat in this one. So stay tuned.
Oh my gosh, that's all she could hope for.
Yes.
Sure. That is amazing. I can't wait to see all of it. Well, we're almost done. I just wanted to know, kind of before we part, do you have any final parting words of wisdom, motivation, inspiration, whatever? I guess I would look at it as, what do you wish your younger self of 8 or 9 years ago knew before starting this fertility journey?
Yeah, I will say that I know it's easier said than done, and it also may come across as a bit negative, but it's not meant to be that way, which is I wish that I knew that nothing is permanent, right? Nothing is permanent. So, the only thing that's permanent is what I call is your permanent now, being here now in the present, because you never know what's ahead. And so if you know that nothing is permanent, then it makes it easier for you to be present in every moment. And that's with your child, with your partner, your spouse. That's the best advice I can give, is just have the knowledge that nothing is permanent so you could be present in your permanent now.
I think that also applies well to, like, if you have a setback along the way, for example, with your, when you started your process and your first surrogate didn't work out, just keep working at it and you'll get there. You'll start a family somehow, some way.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. It was so great to talk to you. I learned a lot. I'm sure everyone did. We just really appreciate you being so open and honest and generous with your time, and just really excited to look out for your upcoming projects. I'm really excited to see Ellen. I didn't know about that. So yeah, congrats on all of that.
Thank you.
And there's been so many people. Let's see, you rock, a true gay inspiration. I've been seeing so many notes about how inspirational you are, as well as all the lucky children notes.
Thank you. I don't have my glasses on, but thank you guys. And definitely reach out to me on the back end if anybody has any questions. I'm happy to answer anything.
Someone has a friend to set you up with? Oh, wish we had.
Listen, rock it out. I'm ready, able and willing.
That's a good note to end on, I think. And for everyone else listening, especially if you're thinking about starting a family through surrogacy, egg donation, IVF, we're going to be doing many more of these lives in this series with more amazing guests. So again, Jose, I would love to catch up again soon. Thank you again so much. We'll be posting this, obviously. We'll also be sharing it on our blog and other places for anyone who missed it.
Awesome.
And it was so amazing to talk to you. Thank you.
It was great talking to you too. Thanks for joining in, everybody. I know it's like the middle of the afternoon. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Parent schedules.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.